Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My guest today was a castaway on Survivor 33, Millennials versus Gen X. And by the way, I had to look this up because I didn't even know. I mean, I knew where I fit in, but I didn't even know where. So Gen X is born between, think about this, folks, because I got this one right, 63 and 82. That's Gen X. And then Millennials are 84, which was when I started high school, and through 97. I just want to put that information out there because if you say you'd never learn anything from my podcast, I just want to make sure that you now can say he reminded us of those dates. It was filmed in April through, I think it was May of 2016 in Fiji, and it premiered in September of that same year. My guest placed 7th out of 20 castaways. And I can't read what that says. Anyway, I'm excited to welcome Sunday Burquest to What Would You Ask podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. If I could read the writing of people that make the notes for me. No, I'm good.
I think it said, and she's amazing. That's what I think the part says that you couldn't read.
I think that's what it said. You know what it said? Now that I can read it now, it says she's also a survivor in life. So, and that is a definite fact.
True.
And will be a fact again in the future. So we're going to kick it off with our quick hitters. These are questions from our members, and they wanted to ask a bunch of stuff. They're all over. And then we're going to talk Sunday through the process. How did it all start? And what was it like to be on in Fiji with all these strangers? And how did you adapt to that? And then what's going on today in your world? And we'll get through this whole thing. So let's kick it off with Sean from Newport News, Virginia. He asked, what was the best and worst part of being in Fiji?
The best part of Fiji was, aside from the cyclone, the weather was actually really nice. It was not humid, it was hot, but I would say that's the best part if we're talking location.
Yep.
The worst part would have been the bugs on Ikabula. The bugs weren't horrid on the other two beaches, but Ikabula was like, they called it Hell Beach, and I don't think they've used it since.
Ugh.
It was so bad. So I think that would be the worst part for me, as far as the location goes.
Katie from St. Petersburg, Florida asks, what would the key attributes be to win on Survivor?
Oh, okay. I have a couple of them. First is adaptability. You have to adapt to your surroundings, first of all, but then, of course, even more so the people that you're working with. And you have to be ready to adapt to different personalities and alliances when it's necessary. And you have to adapt to people. So you have to be a people watcher, and you have to feed people what they want to hear and adapt to them instead of expecting other people to adapt to you. And secondly, along those same lines is perception is king. So what I mean by that is if you think you're projecting something and it's not what's being mirrored back to you by other people, then you have to understand you need to change because you're not projecting what you want to project. People will quickly let you know their viewpoint of what you're putting out there. And if what you're putting out, you may think it's great in your own mind, but if it isn't, you need to adapt it and change that perception and give people the perception you want them to have of who you are in the game. I think those are two of the biggest factors.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, I've interviewed over 30 castaways, and people talk about not being a target, right? Just try not to be a target, right, at any time. I think it was, I forgot who said this, but one of the castaways said, try to let somebody else do your dirty work. Let them be the visible person out there, and you can kind of feed in quietly through the back. But your point about perception is even deeper than that, right? You might be thinking you're working an alliance or you're coming up with whatever you're saying is being received. You got to make sure that it's being received the way you want it to be, because if it's not, it could be bye-bye. That's a great analogy. I love it.
You really have to be extremely self-aware, very self-aware. And if you're dealing with an alpha male personality, you need to feed his ego, even if you don't want to. And if you're dealing with someone that's maybe skittish or a little bit more shy, then you want to build them up and get their confidence going by feeding that, in them. So whatever you can do to make someone else feel good about themselves, it will endure them to you and will help you build relationships and alliances.
Aaron from St. Paul, Minnesota. How about that?
Hi,
Sunday. You were my favorite on season 33. What is your favorite memory of Survivor?
Okay, I have two that are so closely related. So I'm going to say the first is, of course, the family visit. I got to see my husband, and what was cool about our visit was that he actually got to come back to the camp and see how I lived, which isn't always the case. So then when I came home, he could visualize where the well was, where I was sleeping, who I was hanging out with, all that kind of thing. And we were totally surprised the day of the family visit. So that was huge. And secondly was a helicopter ride, because I had a couple of goals. One was get on Survivor. One was make the merge. One was win. And the other one was get on the helicopter reward. And
you did all except one, right?
All except one. Yep.
That's not bad. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah. So helicopter reward is awesome.
That's cool. Scott from Charlotte, North Carolina. Did you exceed your expectations with your success in season 33?
Yes. I mean, I felt like I would do well once I had an opportunity to build relationships with people. My scariest part was going to be those first few days when people getting voted out is really going to be based on your physical ability and challenges, and that's not my strong suit. However, I didn't cost my tribe or slow us down ever. And I knew all I needed was a few days to build relationships. I will say, I got on the airplane. The last thing my kids said to me was, "Mom, whatever you do, don't get voted out first." And
no pressure there, Mom.
Yeah, no kidding. And then I knew if I could get past the first few days, I felt like I would make it to the merge. And, the rest is what it is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's interesting you say that, because as I've done these interviews, people like Cherie and Sandra and Richard Hatch, for that matter, that aren't necessarily, great in physical challenges, they have proved it over time that you can win by not being the, alpha male or alpha female, and to have to win. I mean, there's others you can name. Denise comes to mind. Stephanie comes to mind. People that have been just physical specimens and athletes. But it's amazing how, others have done it the other way, the more cerebral, social game kind of thing. So it's interesting. I think that's what makes Survivor great, is that you can be, some of the best athletes have been voted off that island early, right? And they did pretty well in challenges. So anyway. Craig from Queens, New York. Did you have an all-time favorite female castaway and male castaway?
My all-time favorite female is Monica Culpepper. I've related to her as a mom and somebody in the not millennial generation. And I thought she was really smart how she played. She's more athletic than I am, but she had a great social game. And so I love Monica Culpepper. As far as a male, God, that's hard to say. There's just different people I like for different reasons. And it's hard now because I want to say people that I played with and that have played since then. But I'm trying to think back to old school Survivor, who I loved watching. It's always fun to watch Boston Rob. And I guess I liked Brad Culpepper a lot too. So I'm just going to go with the Culpeppers. I like both of them.
What is it? You mentioned Boston Rob, and everybody mentions Boston Rob. What is it about him that makes him great? Is it one that he, I've watched a lot of Survivor, and Rob, especially in early seasons, outworked everybody. He just worked, he's not, the best athlete, but his heart and his drive and his determination certainly is the reason. He also has a sweeter side. I don't know if that's the right word. He probably would say it's not the right word, but he just gets along with people and can manipulate them. But does that make him great at this game?
I think what makes him great at this game is he never gave up on it.
Yeah.
And he just continued to go out there. And although his game style didn't drastically change from game to game, he did tweak it. And it was crazy watching him manipulate an entire tribe, an entire alliance. And he tried to do it on Winners at War. It didn't go over as well. But he really was strategically knew what he was doing as far as getting people to do what he wanted them to do. And I just love his heart. I love that he wouldn't give up. And I do think he has a soft side. He's probably got 4 little girls to thank for that and a great wife. But yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of heart.
Awesome. Yeah. Mark from Madison, Wisconsin says, what is Jeff Probst like? He seems to be real hard on the castaways and then really generous and giving in other ways.
I think Jeff is hard on castaways that he feels like he can be hard on and not ones that he can't. So in my case, I'm like the older mom. No one's going to be hard on me, to be honest. Jeff was super sweet with me. And the only times that I see Jeff getting frustrated is when you don't participate as you should in a tribal council. And then he'll get frustrated because you're not helping tell the story. Other than that, he's very personable. I talked to him after the family visit, or during it actually, because my challenge was set up right next to where he was standing. And I asked him, I said, do you ever get like tired of the family visit? Like, ho hum, I've done this so many times. And he said, you know what? Because I take something from every single relationship, because I'm a spouse, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a friend. And he said, it's all I can do to not cry during almost every family visit. And that told me a lot about who Jeff really is.
That's awesome. One other thing about Jeff is he doesn't like quitters. He's showing that through all of the series. The people that just quit, he really doesn't have any patience for. So if you're planning on...
Nobody likes a quit.
No.
You can't go through all it takes to get on that show and quit. It's just not fair to all the people that want to be on, in my opinion. But
I second that. I think that's a great point, Sunday. One that doesn't get voiced enough is the fact that, we're going to talk a little bit about the journey in a second, but that is a really important piece. People just think, you know what? You're walking through a mall and some producer runs over and says, hey, Sunday, you want to be on Survivor? We're leaving in 2 weeks. They don't talk about the whole process. And people, and you guys know this from listening and watching the podcast, people have tried multiple times. There's people that have tried 10 times, 20 times to get on this show. It's almost impossible to get on. It's like, I read an article about Survivor and Shark Tank are like the two shows that it's not easy to get on these shows. And then the audition process. And then you even go out to I don't know if they have Final 50 still, but you go out into LA and you do your thing there. And there's all these background checks and paperwork and physicals and all of this stuff you have to do, guys. I couldn't agree more, Sunday. If you could do all that work and get out there, and fail. Oh,
I feel like it's a wasted opportunity that someone else could have had, I guess. But I'm not in the shoes of the people that did, so I'm not dissing anyone that has. But that's just my.
Well, I am. Unless it's some kind of. I remember a young lady that had something going on with her mom at home, and her name escapes me.
That was Jenna, and that was called for. That was, in my opinion, the absolutely right thing to do. Yeah.
And that's why I brought it up. Was that family first, right? We're all matters.
That to me wasn't a quit. That was a
unfortunate situation.
Being called home. Yeah,
exactly. Christina from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania says, Sunday, I have no question. I'm just wishing you the best in your recovery, and we are praying for you. I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Thank you. Yes, I will. That was sweet. You want me to touch on that now or
Sure,
later?
Go ahead. Yes, please.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, for those of you that don't know, I'm dealing with a second cancer diagnosis. I'm a breast cancer survivor from 2012. Recently re-diagnosed with a completely different cancer, which is esophageal. It's actually in my GI junction, I guess they call it. And it's spread to my liver, ovary, lymph nodes. So they can't do surgery. And they're just basically maintaining my life through indefinite chemo. However, I am a person of faith and I'm believing for a miracle, and I'm not going anywhere. I got 4 kids, and I have 5 words I stand on, which are the stage has been set. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people watching my story, and I believe it's a perfect opportunity for them to see a miracle, and that's what's going to happen.
That's awesome. And we are all praying for you. And we last said at the beginning, you are a participant in Survivor, and you've already gone through this once and survived, and we know that you'll do it again. So all the
Thank
best to
you.
that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the journey in Survivor. How did you start? Were you a big fan? Everybody wants to know what motivated you and inspired you to become part of the Survivor family.
Well, big fan. We started about midway into first season, just trying to figure out what in the world the show was. But we were all hooked, and it was one show that my whole family liked together. We all watched all the time. And I'd have parties, for the finales, and my husband's side of the family is all into it. So Sundays involve like arguing about who got voted out or placing bets on who's going to stay in and that kind of thing. So huge fans. I would say probably 5 years before I ever auditioned, I made a comment like, I'm going to be on this show one day. And I have 3 boys and a girl, and my boys just busted out laughing. They were like, yeah, right, you would make it one day. And I just thought, all right, turkeys. But then after I got through breast cancer, I was 45, and my oldest son came to me. He's like, Mom, you got through cancer. Why don't we just audition? You might as well go for the dream. You're already a cancer survivor. And I thought, you know what, if I'm ever going to do it, I got to do it now. Capitalize on this dumb cancer I had just beat and my age, and just go for it. So we auditioned together for Blood versus Water. And so did Adam and his mom and Brett. And I can't remember who auditioned with Brett. It's kind of funny. We all auditioned for that season, but I got a call back. It didn't really go anywhere. Then I auditioned the next season, and that was Millennials versus Gen X. So.
Wow, that's awesome. And so are you submitting a video and getting a call back and going through? And so you did the second time, obviously. First time you did not get called out to LA. Second time you do go through that, or did you? Correct me.
No, I didn't. I got a call, but it just, my son was too young, and they just didn't feel like it was going to work with his age. So, yeah.
Makes sense. And so then you get the call the next time. Tell us what's that's like. Are they telling you you've made it to the final 50, or we want you to come out in LA because you're in the snow? How does that work? What is that phone call like?
Well, first you get a phone call, just a call that they're, interested. And they basically, when they call, it's like an interview. And they loved my accent is one of the first things they say, which I don't have an accent, so I don't know what they're talking about. But
everybody else talks funny. What are you talking about?
Yeah, everyone else talks funny. And then in that interview, the producer I was speaking with was like, I want you to make another video because you were wearing sunglasses, which is totally you're not supposed to do. I don't know what I was thinking. But he gave me some pointers, and I made another one. And then you wait until you see if you're going to get a call to come out to LA. And for me, I'm like stacking my phone every day looking for, a number with LA written underneath it. And finally, I get a call, and I'm jumping up and down before I even answer it. Because I don't know, he's going to say, no, thank you. But generally, they don't call back if it's a no. You just never hear anything. So I'm like trying to be calm and answer, yes, how are you? And then I get the invite and to go out, and I'm jumping up and down in my living room like a crazy person. So, yeah.
And then you go out there, and what is it? So the time frame, are you out there for 3 days, a week? What are you doing there every day?
Well, tell me what you know about what you do in LA.
I know, I don't know much. I know that people have gone into a room and saw a couple producers. In a couple cases, people saw Mark Burnett was part of it. Jeff Probst was part of it. And some people have said they had to do a little skit, and other people said they just talked. And other people, I should say more than a few have said they were grilled, like they want to put the pressure on you to see if you're going to crack, because we don't want to spend all this investment and resources, time, money, in you. And so that's a theme that most people have said that got to the final 50.
Yeah. That's exactly what I experienced. And they bring you out. I never was told numbers, but I think that's about how many people were brought out. And then, you just go through your series of interviews and tests and that kind of thing. Mark Burnett was in my casting interview that day because he just happened to be there. which was interesting because the first thing he said to me was, "I love your act." No, he said, "Have you seen the movie Fargo?" And I was like, "No, but I know what it is." And he made a comment about my accent, and then I got the girl down, in the interview process. In that particular interview, is a really large group, and yeah, they definitely try and tighten the screws there and see what'll come out.
That's fine. And then just put a cap on this. Do you stay in LA and find out there, or do you head home? That's a question I don't know the answer to.
No, you just go home, and then they'll we'll let you know. So I went home, and then generally they give calls out probably 2 weeks before you're leaving to say, you made it, you're leaving in 2 weeks or something. So yeah, awesome. I was on my way to a Minnesota Wild game with my brother when I got that call, and needless to say, I did not pay attention to the game.
That's awesome. Oh, and they told you right there. That would be a fun game though. After that, right? You know where you're going. Well, actually, you don't know where you're going. You just know you're on Survivor.
Yeah.
Chris from Middletown, Connecticut wants to know: is there any way to prepare for Survivor? So you found out you're on. Now what do you do?
Yeah. Well, cry and say, what was I thinking? I think working out is a good idea. I got one of those, I don't know what you call them, but it's basically a flat plate on a ball that you balance on, because I feel like there's a lot of balancing things. So I did a lot of puzzles. I listened to every one of Rob Has a Podcast interviews. I watched every season. I took notes. I did work out, but I knew that wasn't going to be my strong suit. I just didn't want to keel over in a challenge. Some people put on weight. Some people lose weight. So I don't know about that. I can't decide which is the better route to go. I needed to lose weight, so I definitely was not going to put on weight to go on national TV. But yeah, I think the puzzles and reading up and taking notes on what worked and what didn't work is smart. Oh, and getting off of things like caffeine. I had to go off coffee because I wasn't going to have coffee, which meant I would have had a headache every morning. So thinking about things like that would affect you on the island that you're not going to have access to.
Good segue into Ashley from San Diego, California's question. Did you have to change your diet in preparation for your malnutrition you would experience in Fiji?
No, because thankfully for me, I had plenty of extra to carry along with me. I didn't really need to worry about it. But I do know David Wright put on weight because he's smaller. But no, I didn't change my diet.
There are reports that Sunday lost over 25 pounds during her time on Survivor. Is that true?
25.8.
Wow. That is.
Oof. Yes. Highest percentage for females that season. But that's because I had it to lose. And I stayed that weight for about 2 weeks. So.
Let's see. First time you met the castaways, and I know this a little bit of this. So there's a very, very much, silence, right? There's a whole, you guys have heard it listening to the podcast. You've heard this when they're going to, tribal council, it's windows blocked on their boats and whatever they're taking there, right? And if they're in line, there's a babysitter watching them. There's no discussion. I think similarly is the same case with the new folks, right? And going out there, you're on planes and stuff, no talking. Fair?
No talking in casting, no talking ever.
Jeez.
So, but even at that, it's amazing how much communication you can do without talking.
Yes, that's a good point.
And when you have to rely on it, you make use of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you're picked, you're taken off, you're headed to Fiji, you arrive, and now you're dumped off. And what's your first react? Now it has to go in your head. Okay, here goes, family. I'm here now, right? And you're with these people. Now you first get on the island, you start communicating. Are you sizing everybody up while you're there and figuring that person seems nice? That person's standoffish. You're doing a little bit of that. Tell us your first impressions of where you are physically and then the people you're about to meet?
Well, you have your first impressions form because you're there before the game starts.
Oh, that's right.
Not being able to talk again, of course.
Yes.
But when we get dumped off on the island and we're talking to Jeff, at first you're just like, this can't be real. And you're not, there's no music, there's none of the stuff that you see on TV, right? So it's like you're just standing there with Jeff doing the thing. And once we got through the first challenge and actually as a tribe got to our camp, I mean, to be honest, in my head, all I could think was, how do I make an alliance? I forgot how to make an alliance. I've been watching this show forever. I got to make an alliance. How do I make an alliance? I mean, your brain, you just cannot, you're like, don't overdo it and don't underdo it and don't make any mistakes and don't say the wrong thing. Because at the beginning, you could get voted off for literally anything because no one knows anybody. And so, you're like, do I go with the moms? Do I go with the guys? Do I do this? And I had a couple things I wanted to do going in. Part of my strategy, if you will, was to go into the merge with 2 alpha males as protection, which I did. But, it's just like that panicky feeling. And then you have to tell yourself, okay, stop. You've been watching the show forever. You're good with people. Just start talking to people. And that's what I did. But it's like a panicky feeling, though. I'll tell you that.
So tell us a little bit about the cadence, right? We know that you're going to tribal council approximately every 3 days. I know they mix it up with 2 days sometimes. And is there reward challenges in those other days every day, or is there days when it's just a day off? Tell us a little bit about that cadence.
Yes, there are days off, which suck, to be honest. They're so boring because they're so long. We hated days off, but we had them. And plus our schedule got goofed up because of the cyclone and because they had to mess with a couple of the days. Because then at the end, we ended up having tribal council 6 days in a row. They had to fit it in. So it depended if the reward was with immunity or not. Obviously, you never do 2 in the same day. But we did have days off, and none of us liked them at all.
What do you say to the folks that say you have to be getting some food and there's got to be a Porta-John out there somewhere? How do you respond to those naysayers?
Well, first I'll say minus 25.8 pounds. Clearly they were not feeding me on the side.
There's no pizza delivery out in Fiji. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I got pizza on a reward and Fijian pizza stinks. But anyway, as far as a Porta-John, believe me, there is no anything. And I will tell you, you'd think I missed toilet paper the most. Nope, I missed a toilet seat. Oh. I didn't know I loved my toilet seat so much until I got out of the game and I actually got to sit on something to go to the bathroom. And I was like, a toilet seat. I'm so excited. But yeah, definitely no hiding treasures out there.
Pamela from Seattle, Washington asked, did you have a favorite or least favorite challenge?
Yes. Least favorite was, of course, the obstacle course that we had to do on our bellies while our hands and feet were tied.
Yes.
That was horrible. Yes. Now, the good side of that is I got to go on the helicopter reward. That's the only saving grace for that challenge, but it was horrible. Sand was coming out of our ears and noses for days. It was terrible. As far as a challenge that I enjoyed, I didn't do great at it, but I liked it. There was one towards the end where it was like Plinko. For Price is Right, where the thing was coming down and then you'd have to time it to get to the puzzle. I did like that game. I liked the ones that I had a shot at. Even though I didn't win them, there was plenty of games that I could have physically won that they weren't based on my physical strength and speed. I just didn't win them. And I liked those ones because it was like, I have a shot here. I probably won't win, but I actually could. It's not out of the realm of question.
That's great. Did you ever see the Dream Team? The people that set up the challenges and test the challenges and all that? We hear a lot about the Dream Team. Do you ever see those people or no?
Rarely, but some challenges they're required before the challenge. I don't know if I can get into that, but every once in a while they're needed before the challenge starts, and that's the only time you see them.
Yeah, it's like the roller coaster effect, right? The engineers got to go on a roller coaster at the amusement park. before anyone gets on the roller coaster every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got it. So let's talk about the thing. A critical moment. This is a question from Bill from Atlanta, Georgia. He says, was the critical moment Sunday when Will flipped, Adam played the idol on Hannah, blindsiding Zeke, and you ended up in the minority?
Yes.
That was the key.
It was
right?
yeah, we had 5 going into the end, and when Will flipped. And then I have 2 big mistakes, but one of them was voting Will out after that, because I was so ticked at him, and you should never vote emotionally. In fact, while we're watching it from home, my husband's looking at me like, what are you doing?
Oh, that's when
like,
with Brett and David, when you were with Brett and David, right?
yeah, we voted out Will because we were so mad, but that was a dumb move, because we could have used Will to vote out someone on their side and got back to at least even. And so that was a mistake on my side.
Yeah. Didn't that lead to you getting blindsided right after that? Am I missing it?
Yes. Yeah, technically, yes.
Yeah. What was your reasons for voting for Adam at the end?
At the end of the 3 people in the final, he played the best game, period.
Got it.
That's really, he was strategic. He did smart things. He made plenty of mistakes, but he wasn't coming into the merge viewed as a big threat by any means. But he knew what he was doing, and he played the best game of the people that were in the final 3.
So to just jump back to your boys saying, Mom, don't be the first one eliminated. Sunday went to 35 days, I think, 34, 35 days.
35.
Boys, got to be proud of that, right? We're only here for 39, and Mom's here on day 35 in 7th place. Will from Hartford, Connecticut wants to know, when you're eliminated, where do you go and what do you do? Fair question.
Yeah, you get taken, you walk off, the stage thing or the tribal council, and everyone makes fun of me because as I'm walking off, I go like, dang it. And they're making fun of me because I'm not like a swearing type person.
Yes. So
they were like, oh, that's my version of swearing. Then you do your interview that you see at the very end of the episode, where people, when they're rolling the credits and people are like, oh, I'm out, and talk about how they feel. And then you get taken to Ponderosa. So, Will, if you've never watched the Ponderosa videos, I would encourage you to pull those up. They're awesome. And they show exactly everything that happens afterwards.
That's true. And they are awesome to watch. And it's pretty cool.
I love them.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about, so you do what I think is an amazing job on Survivor, going 35 days. I think it was Danny that mentioned to me the realization of, no, it wasn't Danny because she won, but somebody mentioned to me, when Jeff puts puts the fire out and you walk away, everything's been always lights. There's lights everywhere. There's lights at night. There's lights all the time. But when you walk down those steps, it all of a sudden was dark. And I wish I remember who said that to me.
Yeah.
But that was their first realization of, this is over. Did you have a similar experience to that?
Yeah. Yeah. You go sit in a tent by yourself, in the tent in a folding chair. And you're like, hang on. A, I'm in a chair.
Yeah.
And B, what just happened? Like,
right.
It's over. Like, it's so, like, no matter what you think that you want to do so bad,